world falls silent. Not the gentle hush of falling snow, but a suffocating, absolute stillness that precedes a terror older than memory. Imagine a landscape stripped bare, where winter's breath has frozen the very essence of life. Towering pines, once vibrant sentinels, now stand as skeletal fingers clawing at a bruised grey sky. The wind, a relentless biting entity, carves ephemeral sculptures from drifts of snow, its mournful howl a prelude to something far more sinister. Each crunch of frozen crystal beneath unseen feet is a drumbeat against the nerves, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of flesh against the unforgiving elements. This is the dominion of the Wendigo. It is not a creature of fur and fang that stalks the frozen wilderness, though such comparisons have been made. To understand the Wendigo is to grasp a primal, terrifying force, an embodiment of insatiable hunger that transcends the merely physical. It is the gnawing emptiness made manifest, the chill that seeps not just into the bone, but into the very soul. Its form, when it chooses to reveal itself, is a testament to the ravages of starvation, amplified to a cosmic scale. Gaunt, emaciated, the word barely scratches the surface of the horror. Picture a skeletal frame, stretched and distorted, skin pulled taut and translucent over brittle bones. Limbs are unnaturally long, gangly appendages that move with a disjointed, jerky grace, capable of covering impossible distances in a single terrifying stride. Its eyes, if they can be called eyes, are sunken pits burning with an unholy, phosphorescent glow, reflecting the desperate gnawing that consumes it from within. They are eyes that have seen too much, endured too much, and now see only the endless void of their own insatiable need. The aura it projects is a suffocating blanket of cold, a palpable despair that saps the warmth from the air, from the spirit, from all living things. It is the very essence of desperation, a consuming yearning that drives its every action. This is not the cold of winter, which can be endured or even overcome. This is the cold of abandonment, of isolation, of a hunger so profound it has become a defining characteristic, an eternal torment. Before its arrival, there is a distinct, unsettling shift in the natural world. The usual sounds of the forest, the chirp of a bird, the rustle of a small creature, the very hum of life, simply cease. An unnatural silence descends, a vacuum where sound should be, amplifying the sense of unease, the gnawing hunger that precedes its presence. This silence is not peaceful. It is pregnant with menace, a chilling portent of the predator to come. It is the quiet that falls when all other life understands instinctively that something is terribly wrong, that the balance of nature has been irrevocably broken. The Wendigo embodies the ultimate taboo, the horrifying consequence of succumbing to the deepest, most primal of human fears, starvation and cannibalism, in the harsh, unforgiving landscapes where its legend is born. survival often teetered on a knife's edge. When food became scarce, when the long winter threatened to claim all, the unthinkable could become a desperate necessity. The Wendigo is the spiritual punishment for such transgressions, the eternal manifestation of that act of consuming one's own kind. It is said that those who fall prey to the Wendigo are not merely killed, but are transformed. They become like it, forever driven by a hunger that can never be sated, forever wandering the desolate places, a spectral echo of their former selves, a chilling reminder of the price of unchecked desire and the horrors that lie dormant within the human heart when pushed to its absolute limits. The legend serves as a potent cautionary tale, a stark warning against the dangers of greed, of excess, and of the ultimate violation of the natural order. It is a myth that speaks to the fragility of civilization and the ever-present threat of the wild, both external and internal, that can consume us all. The chilling legend of the Wendigo is not a modern invention, nor a mere campfire ghost story. Its roots run deep, entwined with the very fabric of survival for the indigenous peoples of North America, particularly those who call the vast, unforgiving boreal forests their ancestral home. We speak today of the Cree and the Ojibwe, whose lives have always been a delicate dance with the elements, a constant negotiation with a land that can be both bountiful and brutally indifferent. Imagine, if you will, the crushing weight of a northern winter. Days shorten to mere hours, temperatures plummet to unimaginable depths, and the familiar landscape transforms into a stark, white expanse. For these communities, survival was not guaranteed. It was a daily, hard-won victory. Food stores, painstakingly gathered during the brief, precious summer months, dwindled with agonizing slowness. The hunt, often the sole source of sustenance, could yield nothing for days, weeks. The specter of starvation was a constant, gnawing presence, a silent predator lurking just beyond the firelight. It is within this crucible of extreme hardship that the ancient belief in the Wendigo, or variations of this term across different Algonquin languages, began to take shape. This was not simply a monster born of fear, but a profound cultural expression, a manifestation of the anxieties and taboos that arose from the very real possibility of succumbing to primal urges when faced with utter desperation. The Wendigo was understood at its core as a spirit, a creature, and a corrupted human being, all rolled into one terrifying entity. At the heart of its terrifying nature lay the unspeakable act of cannibalism. In a world where every scrap of life was precious, the consumption of human flesh was the ultimate violation, a transgression that severed the ties of kinship and community, plunging an individual into a state of profound alienation. The Wendigo was the embodiment of this ultimate corruption, the chilling consequence of allowing the insatiable hunger, both literal and metaphorical, to consume one's humanity. It represented the complete inversion of cultural values, a descent into a primal state where self-preservation superseded all moral and social obligations. The legend served as a potent cautionary tale, whispering warnings against the dangers of greed and avarice. When famine struck and resources became scarce, the temptation to hoard, to take more than one's share, or worse, to betray one's fellows for personal gain, could arise. The Wendigo was the terrifying personification of these destructive impulses, a stark reminder of what happens when the spirit becomes consumed by an unquenchable craving, eclipsing empathy and compassion. It was a cultural mechanism designed to reinforce communal solidarity, to ensure that in times of crisis, the group's well-being remained paramount. This folklore was not confined to abstract fear. It was deeply rooted in historical realities. Accounts, both oral and later documented, speak of desperate survival during periods of extreme famine where individuals, pushed to the brink of madness by starvation, did indeed resort to cannibalism. These were not acts of malice, but tragedies born of an unimaginable struggle for existence. The Wendigo legend provided a framework for understanding and processing these horrific events, offering a spiritual explanation for the unthinkable. It allowed communities to externalize the horror, to attribute it to a malevolent spirit rather than the inherent failings of their own people, thereby preserving the moral integrity of the survivors. Furthermore, the Wendigo embodied the fear of losing oneself, of becoming something monstrous through one's own actions. It was a potent symbol of the psychological toll that extreme deprivation could inflict, the way in which the mind itself could become a battlefield, succumbing to dark, consuming desires. The transformation into a Wendigo was often depicted as a gradual, insidious process, beginning with a single act of greed or a taste of forbidden flesh, which then spiraled into an unending, insatiable hunger that could never be satisfied. The cultural taboos surrounding cannibalism among the Algonquin peoples were profound and deeply ingrained. They were not merely social customs, but spiritual imperatives, essential for maintaining the balance between the human world and the spirit world. The Wendigo, therefore, represented the ultimate breach of this sacred trust, a terrifying manifestation of what happens when those boundaries are crossed. It was a potent symbol of the consequences of straying from the path of cultural and spiritual rectitude, a chilling reminder of the fragility of the human spirit when confronted with the abyss of absolute need. In essence, the Wendigo was and remains a powerful narrative that encapsulates the enduring struggle against the darkness within, a timeless warning against the corrosive power of insatiable hunger and the profound loss of humanity it portends. The Wendigo. The name itself conjures images of a gaunt, skeletal figure, a creature born of the deepest winter and the most primal of human fears. But to truly understand this chilling entity, we must move beyond sensationalized depictions and delve into the rich tapestry of indigenous folklore from which it arises. The Wendigo is not merely a monster, it is a profound symbol, a cautionary tale woven into the very fabric of survival in the harsh, unforgiving northern wilderness. At its core, the Wendigo embodies insatiable hunger. This is not a simple craving for food, but a terrifying, all-consuming desire for human flesh, a hunger that can never be satisfied. It represents the ultimate transgression, the perversion of natural order, and the descent into savagery. This ravenous appetite is not just physical, it is also spiritual, a void that seeks to devour everything in its path, including the very essence of humanity. One of the Wendigo's most insidious traits is its ability to mimic human voices. It can perfectly replicate the sounds of loved ones, of lost children, of desperate pleas for help, using these familiar melodies to lure unsuspecting individuals away from the safety of their communities and into its icy clutches. This acoustic deception preys upon our deepest emotional vulnerabilities, turning the comfort of familiar sounds into instruments of terror. Imagine the chilling whisper of a familiar voice carried on the wind, drawing you deeper into the snow-laden woods, a siren's song of ultimate despair. The physical prowess of the Wendigo is legendary. It is described as possessing incredible speed, able to traverse vast distances in mere moments, its long, emaciated limbs carrying it with an unnatural swiftness. Its strength is equally formidable, capable of overpowering even the most robust individuals. This speed and strength, combined with its stealth and cunning, make it a terrifyingly efficient predator. The frozen wilderness, with its vast, silent expanses and its blinding snow, becomes its hunting ground, a place where its chilling presence can remain unseen and unheard until it is far too late. The connection between the Wendigo and the frozen wilderness is inextricably linked. The harsh conditions of winter, the scarcity of food, and the isolation of the north can push human beings to desperate measures. In this context, the Wendigo can be seen as a manifestation of the psychological toll that such an environment can take, a personification of the desperation and the potential for barbarity that arises when survival is paramount. It is a reminder that even in the most beautiful and serene landscapes, primal forces can lie dormant, waiting to be awakened. Indigenous communities developed intricate rituals and protective measures to ward off the influence of the Wendigo. These practices were not born of superstition, but of a deep understanding of the spiritual and psychological threats posed by this entity. Specific chants, imbued with ancestral power and traditional knowledge, were used to create a spiritual shield to repel the creature's malevolent influence. The use of certain charms, often crafted from natural materials and imbued with symbolic meaning, provided a tangible form of protection, a physical reminder of their spiritual defenses. However, the most potent defense against the Wendigo was always community. In a world where isolation could be a death sentence, the strength of the collective, the bonds of family and kinship, provided a bulwark against the encroaching darkness. Sharing resources, offering mutual support, and maintaining strong social connections were not just acts of kindness. They were essential strategies for survival, both physical and spiritual. The Wendigo thrives on division and isolation, and a united community was its greatest adversary. Beyond the direct encounter with the creature, the concept of Wendigo psychosis offers a profound insight into the psychological dimensions of this folklore. This cultural phenomenon describes a state where an individual develops an overwhelming, uncontrollable craving for human flesh. It is a mental and spiritual affliction, a deep-seated hunger that consumes the individual from within, often leading to acts of cannibalism. This psychosis is not merely a matter of mental illness. It is believed to be a spiritual contagion, a manifestation of the Wendigo's influence taking root in a vulnerable mind. The belief that one could become a Wendigo through acts of extreme selfishness or cannibalism is a central tenet of this law. It serves as a powerful moral compass, illustrating the dire consequences of greed, selfishness, and the violation of sacred taboos. To succumb to such urges, to prioritize one's own needs above all else, to consume another when resources are scarce. These are the very behaviors that the Wendigo embodies. In this way, the Wendigo is not just an external threat, but an internal one, a cautionary reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human heart, a darkness that, if left unchecked, can lead to monstrous transformation. The Wendigo, therefore, is a profound exploration of the human condition, a chilling reflection of our deepest fears and our most profound moral responsibilities. The Wendigo, a creature born from the harsh realities of winter and the desperate measures of survival, has transcended its ancestral roots to become a potent force in contemporary culture. Its journey from a specific Algonquin spirit, deeply embedded in cultural taboos and warnings, to a ubiquitous horror icon is a fascinating testament to the enduring power of myth and the human fascination with the monstrous. In literature, film, and television, the Wendigo's presence is undeniable. Think of the chilling portrayal in the 2021 film Antlers, where it embodies a primal, corrupted nature, a terrifying echo of ecological decay and familial trauma. Consider the interactive horror of Until Dawn, where the Wendigo's insatiable hunger becomes a tangible, terrifying threat to a group of stranded teenagers, its monstrous physicality amplified for maximum dread. Then there's the long-running television series Supernatural, which has featured the Wendigo multiple times, often depicting it as a relentless, predatory creature driven by an unquenchable appetite. Its supernatural powers making it a formidable foe for the Winchester brothers. These modern interpretations, while undeniably effective in their genre, often prioritize the creature's monstrous physicality and supernatural abilities. The gaunt, emaciated form, the unnatural strength, the chilling shrieks, these elements are amplified, sometimes at the expense of its original cultural context. The intricate spiritual and psychological dimensions of the Wendigo, its connection to greed, cannibalism, and the breaking of societal taboos, can become secondary to the immediate visceral terror it's designed to evoke. This shift, however, does not diminish the legend's appeal. Instead, it speaks to a broader, more universal resonance. The Wendigo, in its modern guise, taps into a primal fear that transcends specific cultural boundaries. It becomes a symbol of something fundamentally wrong, something that consumes from within, a manifestation of our deepest anxieties. The enduring fascination with the legend is evident in the persistent whispers of modern sightings and encounters. Accounts, often shared in hushed tones online or in remote communities, describe shadowy figures, unnatural tracks, or an overwhelming sense of dread in desolate wildernesses. These stories, while captivating, are often met with more grounded explanations. Scientists and sociologists offer compelling insights into these phenomena. Confirmation bias, the psychological tendency to seek out and interpret information in a way that confirms one's existing beliefs, plays a significant role. Once a person is primed to believe in the Wendigo, they are more likely to interpret ambiguous stimuli as evidence of its presence. Misidentification of animals, particularly in low light or adverse weather conditions, is another common explanation. The gaunt appearance of a starved wolf or a large deer can, from a distance, be misinterpreted as something more sinister. Furthermore, the psychological impact of isolation and fear in remote environments cannot be overstated. Prolonged solitude, coupled with the inherent dangers of the wilderness, can lead to heightened anxiety and the projection of imagined threats onto the environment. The very real psychological stress of extreme conditions, the gnawing hunger, and the desperation for survival can, in a sense, create the very conditions that the Wendigo myth warns against, blurring the lines between folklore and lived experience. Yet, even with these rational explanations, the Wendigo continues to hold a powerful grip on the modern psyche. What is it about this ancient spirit that continues to captivate and terrify us? Perhaps it represents the fear of primal hunger, not just for food, but for power, for wealth, for anything that can fill an existential void. It embodies the darkness that can lie within humanity, the potential for cruelty and self-destruction that lurks beneath the surface of civilization. The Wendigo serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked desire and the breakdown of social order. It is a cautionary tale, ancient in its origins, yet remarkably relevant in its modern interpretations, warning us about the perils of greed, the dangers of isolation, and the monstrous potential that lies dormant within us all, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. The enduring power of the Wendigo lies in its ability to tap into these fundamental human fears, making it a timeless symbol of the darkness that we both fear and, in a strange way, are drawn to.